Hello dear viewers, and welcome back to our channel, your favorite place to dive deep into the hidden truths and tender moments of the British royal family. Here, we don't just scratch the surface, we peel back the layers of velvet and protocol to find the beating heart underneath. So make yourself comfortable, because today's story will capture your mind and very likely squeeze your heart. Tell me honestly, when was the last time a single sparkling pin managed to hold together not only the fabric of a royal sash, but the entire emotional weight of a family, perhaps even of a nation? Because that's exactly what happened recently inside the ancient stone walls of Windsor Castle, under the flicker of chandeliers that have watched generations come and go. This was more than diamonds and etiquette. This was a moment of raw, human connection, disguised in the most elegant possible wrapping. Tonight we're talking about the breathtaking return of Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales, to the full royal stage. A moment so loaded with personal meaning, so delicately powerful, that even seasoned royal watchers found themselves reaching for tissues. This was no ordinary ribbon-cutting or gala. This was a deliberate, brave step by Catherine back into the harsh spotlight, after sharing with the world the deeply personal news of her battle with cancer. Imagine the pressure. Cameras from every continent waiting. Eyes hungry for signs. Is she all right? Is she strong enough? Does she still look like the future queen? And then, there she was. Accompanied by her husband, Prince William, who, in these moments, looked less like the stoic heir to the throne and more like a quietly protective partner. Catherine stepped into Windsor's Grand Hall. The effect was electric. Even before she smiled, before she raised a graceful hand in greeting, the entire atmosphere changed. She wore a stunning white gown by Giambattista Valli, flowing and almost ethereal, as if meant to remind onlookers that this woman was not just royalty, but also still tender, still healing. On her head rested the lover's knot tiara, that legendary piece once adored by Diana, its arcs of diamonds and draped pearls catching the candlelight in gentle pulses, like a regal heartbeat. But here's where everything shifted from merely beautiful to historically poignant. Because carefully pinned across her chest, nestled against the pale silk of her sash, was a tiny framed portrait. Easily overlooked by casual observers, but not by anyone who understands the powerful, centuries-old codes of royal dress. It was the first time Catherine had ever worn the portrait of King Charles III, her father-in-law, also currently battling cancer. And in that moment, that simple brooch said more than 1,000 palace statements ever could. It wasn't just about loyalty to the crown. It was about solidarity with a man enduring the same storm. It was Catherine's subtle way of telling the king, and indeed telling all of us, we're in this together. You are not alone in your fight. And neither am I. The guests that evening, presidents, ambassadors, and aristocrats draped in their own medals and sashes, noticed. The cameras picked it up. But it was the undercurrent of emotion that truly flooded Windsor's ancient hall. Because it's one thing to see Catherine in jewels. It's another to see her use them to weave a private message in a very public place. This was no routine display of protocol. This was the kind of act that quietly strengthens the very pillars of monarchy, family, unity, continuity. Especially at a time when the monarchy itself feels more fragile than ever. Royal commentators were quick to call it out. Charlotte Griffiths, editor-at-large for the Mail on Sunday, didn't mince words when she spoke on the Palace Confidential podcast. It was a big, big deal. The first time we've seen her in a tiara for nearly 2 years, and she looked fantastic. But more importantly, it was the first time she's worn King Charles's portrait. That last detail hit like a small thunderclap through the carefully arranged flowers and polished silver of the banquet tables. Think about what that must have meant to King Charles. Already weary, no doubt, from the endless cycle of treatments and the heavy crown that still demands constant ceremony. And then he looks across the table and sees his daughter-in-law, luminous, composed, wearing his face on her chest, a sparkling promise that she stands with him through every daunting step. Insiders say the king's eyes softened each time they exchanged glances that night. Not grand, dramatic stares, just the fleeting connections that only families know. Enough to whisper, "I see you. I know what you're carrying. And I'm carrying it too." And the British public? They didn't miss a beat. Overnight, social media swelled with posts praising Catherine's grace, her subtle courage, her quiet way of binding the family closer together when illness could so easily pull them apart. It was as if all of Britain, perhaps all of the Commonwealth, exhaled together, "She's back. And she's still ours." It's worth remembering, this was Catherine's first major full-scale state event since revealing her diagnosis. She had missed the state visit from Japan's Emperor and Empress, only briefly appeared for the Emir of Qatar. So her return was a statement. Not only of personal strength, but of institutional resilience. It was the monarchy saying, through her carefully chosen jewels and serene poise, "We are still here. We are still standing." It also showed something else. Something more intimate and lasting, that through adversity, Catherine has not been diminished, she's been distilled. Reduced to her essential core, which is startlingly strong. Watching her that evening, some noted she seemed even more regal, more ready to one day be queen. As if hardship had burnished her instead of breaking her. The public saw it. So did commentators like Griffiths, who concluded simply. She's back on parade in a very formal capacity, and she's more empowered than ever. She really is starting to look regal, like a queen in waiting. And you could feel it, couldn't you? That subtle but seismic shift. A hush fell over even seasoned palace aides, who suddenly realized they were witnessing more than just a diplomatic dinner. This was a quiet coronation of sorts, not in title, but in spirit. The moment Catherine stepped beyond simply being the Princess of Wales and began embodying the future queen. Of course, none of this would matter if it didn't resonate so powerfully with people beyond the castle gates. If it didn't echo in the hearts of everyday men and women who have watched their own loved ones face similar battles. Seeing both King Charles and Catherine persevere through treatment, seeing them share a silent pact of courage across a sea of crystal goblets, made the monarchy feel, dare we say, profoundly human. And maybe that's why this small portrait pin matters so much. Because it's more than jewelry. It's a tiny, glinting confession, even the mightiest need each other. Even kings and future queens lean on family when the lights grow dim. So let me ask you, dear viewers. When you first saw Catherine back in the royal spotlight, did it strike you how much weight rested on that tiny brooch? Did you feel, as so many did, that you were watching a family stitch itself closer together under the strain, not tear apart? Tell me in the comments. Because I think we all crave reminders that loyalty, compassion, and steadfast love still exist, especially in a world that sometimes feels starved of all three. If this glimpse into the private heart of royalty touched you, if it gave you a little more faith in resilience and unity, please give this video a like. It truly helps us continue sharing these hidden chapters from inside palace walls. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell, because as long as Windsor's lights keep burning, we'll be right here, uncovering every fascinating story for you. Thank you so much for watching, for caring, and for being part of a community that sees beyond the crowns to the people beneath. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and remember, sometimes the smallest gestures carry the entire legacy of a dynasty on their delicate, jeweled shoulders.